Good evening, and for some of you, it might be good morning by the time this is done. We just wrapped up with the first round of BBH20. We're here to get through all the messiness from our veto wins to our evictions, all the way up through Frankie just losing an absolute monster of a battle between Preston and Frankie to remain in the game. I am still... My heart... From seeing, and we'll talk about it, Frankie was literally up 9-3 in the final third decisive match and just lost it. Preston was able to force the tie and then win the fourth decisive match. But we'll break it all down. I'm joined by people making their return to morning/evening tea this season. It's Dr. David Lee Farrell and Dr. Maxwell Teddy.
I need a doctor after what just happened.
Well, you're in luck because a doctor is on the stream right now.
Excellent.
We got three lovely humans making their debut for this season. He just came off a different podcast. Now he's on this kind of podcast. It's Alex Trias.
What up? What up? It won't work for me either.
Hopefully we will be more exciting than whatever you just did, because I know you're podcasting for many hours in a row, so hopefully we can keep you entertained. Joining me, he is performing Native New Yorker by Odyssey. It's the Lips. Maybe not.
I'm in mourning.
Ridiculous. It's season 8 winner Foser. And joining us, he is the winner of BBH20 and the president, founder, CEO of the Michael Bergeron Stan Club. It's Ryan R.T. Taylor.
I expect everybody here has their cards, right? As all fans of Michael Bergeron here, we all have our Stan cards ready. No,
you didn't ship them out yet.
And
Ryan.
also, per Lee's mention of him being a doctor, I was in school to be a doctor, and I left on my own accord. I just need every viewer to know that I was almost one.
Alrighty, well, let's kick off this morning tea edition.
Yeah, honestly.
So before we get started, the alliances that still existed coming in today. Well, I guess we're still covering day 3 and day 4. So the alliance that existed coming into day 3 were Ashley's former castmates, lols, that's dead, which were the BBH18 alumni. Megan, Trey, and Victoria as MTV. You had Jabbar, Trey, and Lamont as Black Coffee. Whoop Whoop, which I believe was Preston, Caro, and Liv. And then Not For Lee, which was Preston, Megan, and Trey. Before veto results come out, Louise finally... Oh, who's here? Oh, gosh. Before veto results drop in any of the houses, because it's a pretty slow day before veto results drop, because there's not really much to talk about, Louise finally decides that she's going to reveal the secret she's been holding on to. The second Christian was crowned head of household in House Bubbly, she knew their team was safe, because she was the second highest score in the leaderboard, and mathematically, the 6 next highest scores didn't even beat Christian and Louise combined. She knew within second 4 her team was safe, and she shared it with nobody, leading Christian to have this whack-ass HOH, and we'll get into the whack-ass communication between Madison, Megs, Rizzo, all that bullshit later. Louise could have prevented all of this by just saying, hey team, H-org, all 6 of us, hop on call, without saying any more. Mathematically, none of us are going home. Let's just have fun. But instead, Louise kept it to herself and let all this fucking madness and mayhem take over Team Bubbly. So let's start off with Team Bubbly, the team that did not matter at all this entire week. Nothing mattered about them. We knew it. They didn't know it. Well, Louise knew it, but didn't tell anyone. We had Christian as our HOH. He had nominated Madison and Rizzo solely based off of activity. Madison crushes the veto, second highest score in the entire bunch. I think that should possibly be Tay. Yes, it does. Madison crushes the veto, obviously is going to save herself. And without any discussion, Christian is putting up Victoria. It's the person. I mean, he straight up told her he was considering her for an initial nom. So it was no doubt she was going up just based off of activity. He's just talked more to Louise and Megs. Let's get into this vote. Good God, what a disaster! It starts off with Madison Brown having all the power. Louise wants to save Victoria. They have a pre-connection coming in from Conquest 22 where Louise hosted her. Megs would like to save Rizzo. They just bond way more, see way more eye to eye. And then you've got Madison in the middle. Madison promises her vote to Victoria because she is called Victoria. She had not called with Rizzo at any point in time. So she promises her vote to Victoria. Then she hops on call with Megs, and Megs is like, well, I'm considering saving Rizzo. I think you should give him a shot. She then spends, 2.5 hours on call with Rizzo and realizes she much prefers Rizzo. Megs wants to save Rizzo, so she's just going to flip her vote until, you guessed it, nobody. She is gone all day today on day 4. Doesn't message her prod chat, doesn't message anyone else, and just sends in her vote to evict Victoria. She then, who left?
Ashley.
Oh.
Rip. She sends her vote to evict Victoria, then she goes to host bingo. And with 45
Vintage Madison Brown.
good old Madison Brown, because from last conversation with Louise under the perception she's saving Victoria. Megs doesn't want to vote in the minority. Louise wants to save Victoria. So earlier today, Megs and Louise hopped on call and were like, yep, makes sense. We'll just save Victoria. It's honestly better that way because Victoria probably would take this eviction to heart, even if it got canceled. So it's better just to evict Rizzo, explain that this vote doesn't matter, who cares, and we'll move on with it. Well, it's literally 45 minutes left till the votes were due, not when the window opened. 45 minutes till the votes are due. Madison decides to finally tell Megs, oh, by the way, I want to save Rizzo. To Megs' shock, she's like, well, goddamn, now I got to fix this shit. Because for whatever reason, Megs is obsessed with this being a unanimous vote. We'll talk about that in a second. I don't know why she wants it to be one. So then Megs has to hop on call with Madison to convince her to then make it unanimous against Rizzo. Then it is to evict Rizzo for Rizzo's eviction to not matter at all. And in the meantime, Rizzo and Madison have been exposing Megs' game for what she did in terms of playing around with the Victoria versus Rizzo stuff. What a disaster. What an absolute disaster. Thoughts?
Well, it was nice to see the long form of what Madison did in Live Night 1 from 18. She didn't really have a chance to ghost anyone during Live Night. So it's nice to see that the chaos does actually transfer to a full round.
I think this round was crazy it was Bubbly House, right? That was that one. And that as viewers, we saw person by person, everybody playing this round worse somehow. Like the fact that it all should have ended with Louise just making everybody's life, leaving this house with 5 allies in theory that you all get to just chill out with for a round, focus on your conversations with other people. And then it was Christian choosing to tell more than the amount of people he needed to that they were going on the block. And then everybody in the house not talking about anything to then it all piling up on what should have just been resolved from the beginning. So I'm still sitting here after you explaining everything, trying to decide who was the worst. And I don't know if I have an answer yet. I don't know if any of you all have an answer who you think played the worst between Bubbly, but I think somehow the person played the best was Rizzo, and he left. So I don't know what that says.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only person that didn't play it bad other than Rizzo is Victoria. I think that she worked really hard and held people accountable to say, I'm working hard to maintain this relationship. Don't evict me. And I think that her social attempts paid off for her. I mean, Megs and Louise had an important conversation where, yes. But Megs and Louise had a conversation that I think is important where they were like, if this vote had actually mattered, our vote would probably be different. But this was all based on the fact that they knew someone was coming back in. I think they still played it really badly because earlier today they were like, whatever we do, we have to be upfront and honest very early on and say exactly what we're doing. And they didn't do it. I still think Christian probably played it the worst because he's coming out of this with no allies from his team. Whereas at least if Megs played it poorly, she and Louise are in it together. If Madison played it poorly, she can blame it on Megs and still have Rizzo. So there are people that come out of that team still with people who have their back. Christian doesn't have any of it.
Yeah, like the Christian's best connections at this point aren't even in his own house, really. Like his best connection is what, Michael? We would say after these first few days, like for him, not saying it's reciprocated both ways, but for him, Michael's probably one higher on his list.
Yeah.
I do want to go back to the majority vote of it all. It's like a final six vote. That's how you have to treat it. They're truly in all sense of the word, you can't hide behind it. I want to vote with the numbers when the only other option than 3-0 is 2-1. Like, so you're either hiding in the majority or you are the majority. So I don't know. Like I feel like Megs is a better player than that.
I can understand.
Just try to hide it.
I can understand why you want a majority vote with so little votes counted in this first round, though, because if you are that one, then it's kind of like you're either showing that you don't know what's happening, or that you just wanted to, like, you either don't know what's happening or something else happened and you're being left out, or you're actually just showing your ass. You don't care because you just know that person's coming back anyway. So however I vote doesn't really matter, but you're still in a way showing your ass. But if you are in the 3-0, if you're in that 3, then obviously like all 3 of us voted the same way. Whereas like they can still pin something against you because you voted incorrectly. Like
to me, just Megs and Louise by extension seem like the last 2 who should care to be in that 3, because there's only 2 outcomes for you, and how Alex touched on a little bit. You're either A, in the majority already, or B, you've now like forced someone else that didn't want to be into that group. So it's not like Rizzo Lee's being like, oh, it was 3-0. Instead, what he hears and what we're seeing post-eviction is, oh, Megs went out of her way to then get a third person to then vote me out so that she could blend in, but it just looks facetious. If anybody should care about just hopping on with Megs and Louise, it's Madison. Like at least she's an excuse. Like, Rizzo, I wanted to save you, but it's stupid for me not to just blend in on something that's happening anyway. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
The last person who should be trying to do that is the person who's getting what they want anyway. Like,
yeah,
right. And like ultimately, that's what it is. It's like Carl said at the beginning. It should have been communicated as soon as Louise understands that they were the second highest scorer and Christian won, that this isn't a real HOH. Will people's feelings still be hurt that they were nominated and that votes were cast on them? Sure. But I feel like it's a lot easier pill to swallow if that's been communicated so early. Because then when you go back to like wanting to hide inside a majority, that's easy to do when you have people in your group that are going to actively communicate with each other. It's not easy to do when you have Madison, who's Madison, and you are also along with Louise, who's on a different time schedule. Like, that's not the easiest path to be like, oh, I'm sorry, it just didn't work out. You really should have just been like, this is how I'm going to vote, communicate it clearly to both people, understanding that this isn't going to matter, and then work from there, because there's a lot less bloodshed and a lot less things that you have to clean up after.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say, I can understand not sharing the information, though, because you get to see how people would play the round without knowing that regardless your person is safe. Because if you know regardless that all 6 of you are safe and one of the 2 of you is coming back, you're going to play the round a lot differently, which they ended up doing. Even just a hint of that information. I mean, Preston was playing his cards differently today because he wasn't under the assumption, but he was hoping with incredible faith that his team was the team that won and that he was going to be safe. So he was having conversations differently than if his ass was about to go out, which we just saw. So like, I can understand Louise not wanting to share that information, because then you get to see how your team plays that round.
And Louise is not getting clocked for people aren't saying, "Oh, Louise should have known mathematically." Like people are not thinking about it that deeply. And so Louise really comes out on top here because no one is pinning any of this chaos on her. So like it really worked out well for Louise. And Louise has outside connections outside of this team too, whereas other people have focused all of their energy in this team. And Louise is like, I know I don't have to do that. I can spread my wings and fly. And so Louise really is just in an amazing spot right now.
Are there codenames going public at all, or no? Never.
No,
Oh,
I mean they know the totals of the houses, so I mean mathematically, how many ways can you add up to 72?
Right, but I think the only way this blows up on Louise is if Louise's codename gets revealed, and then they see, oh, if you know you lose with that score, you should have known you won, which is what Louise did. But I think if that doesn't get revealed, then
yeah, so she can completely hide behind it. So,
but I agree with Max that Louise tackled it the best. Like, you know you're safe. Worry about the 5 people in your cabin later. Who the fuck cares? You're the one person who gets to comfortably bother 12 other people as they're stressing. I think the only way you could take it a little bit differently is a counter to what Foster said, where you go public with it. So you know the other you now have 12 people talking like they're losing, like for sure. And like the 12 people in those cabins are nuts, and those houses are nuts. Like they're gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
And so maybe if you know then you can comfortably talk to these people panicking and get maybe more info. But it's also like I don't think Louise cares this early for that much info. So it's being nitpicky.
Is after Louise started telling people, no, I think we're going to be safe. People still didn't believe them. And we're still going around like, oh, I don't know who's going to be safe. I'm like, Louise has hint, wink, winked at you that they're going to be safe. And people were just not picking it up.
Yeah, I mean, good play on her. I think there was so much happening in the other 2 houses that it just was so irrelevant to the fact that as it came out, Bubbly became more and more and more confident that they were the team that was safe, and it started to slowly leak out to Caro, and then Caro told others. But I think there was just so much going on that she gets away with this. And the only person who leaves her house frustrated with her is Rizzo, but Rizzo knew that. Rizzo knew he wasn't getting her vote. So she had to vote someone out. The only person leaving that house mad with her is Rizzo. So yeah, I think she's the winner of this house for me. Absolutely. I mean, she's the only winner of this house for me. I think Madison doesn't come away with any new, she comes away with, I think, better connections with Rizzo. Pending how all this blows up. I think Rizzo does trust Madison more than he trusts Megs, and how all of this is playing out in terms of Rizzo was watching Survivor and wasn't really sure why the vote flipped on him. So I think he trusts Madison right now and not so much Megs. But other than that, Madison walks away with that connection. Victoria, I don't think, walks away with anything really meaningful out of this. I mean, she walks away with a connection to Louise, which she already had coming in. Megs now has some damage control to do with Rizzo.
And Victoria and Rizzo also have their connection with each other, which I think is decent.
Yeah, good. I mean, but overall, it's not a good winner. Like if you gained one connection out of your house of 6, I think you walk away a loser in this. Like you needed to walk away with more than this. Like this was trauma bonding, and that's all you got out of it. Yeah, Louise is easily the winner of this house. She walks away getting everything she wanted, was never in danger. She got to focus her time elsewhere. For a lot of this cast who ignored people not in their house, rightfully so. Like I get it. Like everyone, like Brain and Braun were so fucking fucked up, and then Bubbly for the last hour before the vote was so fucked up. They were also focused inward. Louise could focus outward. She got to talk to people from other houses. As we now merge, some people feel a certain type of way about players in other houses that didn't talk to them during these past 3 or 4 days. So I think Louise really got ahead of that. So good on her. Yeah, biggest loser, I don't know. Pick your poison of the bunch. I would say Christian, but I mean,
I think it's honestly Megs because of how far she had to fall.
I
don't know. Like,
I would also say
I would still say Christian though, because I have more confidence in Megs being able to recover.
Who lost this round, Alex?
Okay, fine.
I would disagree with that because Meg's not only had to fall, but she comes out of this with something that she has to put out. She comes out of this with a fire that she has to put out.
Yeah.
Whereas Christian might not come out with anything positive or negative. That's still more positive than Meg's having to make amends again with Rizzo.
Okay, this is going to sound a little shady, but I don't think Christian had much to lose to begin with.
And good
She's
for
still
him.
good.
So, like,
It's
I don't.
round one. You should have
That's what I'm
something
saying.
to
I
lose.
don't know that he's the biggest loser because of that, because like he didn't have a whole lot to lose. Like, I don't think he comes out of this. There's a difference in like coming out of it a loser and coming out of it well positioned. I think he comes out of it less positioned, but not as big of a loser, if that makes sense.
Like Meg's had more movement, I guess.
Yes.
from-
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fair.
I think that's what I meant.
I don't
Yeah.
think anyone from this group is going home this next round, though.
I think they could.
Louise
That's
said she would put up Christian if she won HOH.
A lot of people, I think,
And Victoria would, and Madison said
Rizzo's
it.
only targeting that house
I think,
for that team.
yeah, the whole house would put up Christian, I guess.
Yeah,
Did we
Christian.
talk about his veto score? Did we talk about that? Did I miss it?
Mary,
Can't
what the
Wait,
fuck?
Oh, let's put him back on the table for biggest loser of the round because I forgot about that and now I'm reconsidering.
Actually, can we just pull up the video and reel it back because
I mean, honestly, guys, he didn't want to win. He nailed it. Like, let's be honest.
Nailed it.
So,
Why?
I thought he won.
Name
Why
somebody who's
didn't
thrown a
wanna
competition
win?
better than Christian Nyman right there. I mean, come on.
Just draw a line.
He literally was like, I don't want to make a renom. I don't want to have to do it. And then was like, but I don't want to win. And I'm like, there's only 6 people at the house.
he used less than half the board, y'all. It was
But you don't even, like, you could start wherever you wanted, right? Like you could get 8.
He asked me what's the minimum amount of squares I have to hit? I was like, no minimum.
One.
I
You
guess
have to
my
get a
thing-
9.
and maybe this is why I'm reverting back to him being the loser of the round as well, is he seemed to scream so much about how he didn't want to make a renom, and I think that was more important to him not wanting to win.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. And yeah,
people seemed to buy his excuse though, right? Like his excuse was that he was at school and school blocks the Discord Wi-Fi, so he was on his phone.
If you bought that excuse, you got ranked 17th on the player cards.
But like, I don't think people questioned it really. Like, have we heard talk of like, oh, Christian threw that really badly? Maybe we have and I missed it, but
Someone
don't
on
think it's
call
storyline.
asked him, "Oh, you threw that," and he said, "No. I was at school." Like he went right into the.
What's crazy is that like you have to look at that situation. Like, you're basically playing a final 6. How are you going to look at someone who made like you said they made the noms and think they threw? Because why would you? It's like I know he would. Like I know he didn't want to, but like why? Like I think in his head he's probably like, oh, I came off a light reputation in 13 for winning competitions. Like already won an HOH that was basically a commitment comp. Like it's like, did you care to put time in? And then like was afraid to win a veto when you're like everyone's hustling for everybody should be trying to win competitions because it's what you should be doing if you were at final 6 of the game.
well,
So, like-
I did win Final 5 HOH and through the Final 5 veto. So
I didn't watch your season. But I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's like it makes him the loser of the round. I just think it's like a silly mindset that he has to get out of. Like you're playing with however many people are in this cast of like people that really want to do well. Just like do your shit. If you think you can win competitions and do something with that. Don't like try to make yourself a player that people don't know you are anyway. Like everybody's familiar with everybody's games.
Yeah.
Or if they're not, they're gonna find out from somebody else. So just play your game.
I think that's such a good point because anytime we've looked at these players in the past, especially in a returner season, like Christian throwing a comp is not going to convince someone that he's suddenly bad at competitions. I'm assuming that's kind of what you were going at, and
tell me that.
and so I just think that it either looks like he intentionally threw it or he just did something silly, or even people that are really good at comps are bad at some things. So I think he went about it a little too dramatically.
I will say though, I do think it's hilarious that he's been following this series and has seen this competition before and did think that he was winning with only 41,000.
No, he started
For
sending.
this board, I think this board, because you change it every season, but this board specifically, I think was 96 million was the highest that's been able to be found.
He sent 1,000 something in his prod chat, and I was like, is that like the end of the number? Or he started with like 600 something. I was like, maybe he's just seeing the end. And I was like, is he thinking that this is the full amount that he's gonna score? Just 1,000?
I am a little more impressed though that a couple other players got close to Christian's score trying to do well.
What'd you say?
I said I am more impressed that a couple of players got close to Christian's score actually trying to do well.
Yeah, that's fair. But this all boils back to the fact that Louise could have prevented literally all of this. They all could have submitted a joke math path score and not given a flying fuck. This all boils back to the fact that Louise was a troll, and I live for it. But
I am so thankful because I have not laughed that hard in so long, and it was good for my soul.
yeah, I hyped myself up before those results. I'm like, don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh. It's hard to not fucking laugh when you go from 45,000 to 17 million. It's impossible.
I wish you just did it from the top just for the bit of it. Like, it just revealed the winner off the jump and then built down the Christian score.
Yeah, pulled a BB20 and just said, Matt did so poorly. Let's not even reveal his score. We're just going to win our
Now you comparing it to a deaf man in an audio challenge. What the fuck?
His score was that bad. His score was equivalent.
Christian's math pass score to a deaf man in an audio challenge.
Christian's math pass score was the equivalent of giving a deaf man an audio comp. That's how rotted. Not old.
I do not condone these statements. Do not associate me with these statements. They are of Carl's mind and only Carl's.
Oh, God.
That is how bad his score was, and you cannot tell me otherwise.
I'm not going to say shit now. Let's move. Next talk.
Yeah,
Let's
move it
on.
Wrap it up.
We're moving on.
Producers
We're moving on to
saying we got to change the subject, Carl.
Why does Carl have lasers on his forehead?
Oh my God. Come at me, Allison Grodner. Anyway, laser game. Alrighty, Team Brain, here we go. So Team Brain, we left off as Erica as the head of household. She nominated Nikki and Frankie for eviction. Sarah wins the veto with the overall highest score of the bunch and had already told basically both noms she wasn't using it before she won it. So didn't matter. So let's get into the vote. This vote, once again, is also initially split, this time with Sarah holding all the cards. Jabbar has no interest in saving Nikki for whatever reason. I think he sees her as a threat and would like to see her go. He basically told her even before the veto results came out that he wasn't going to save her at the eviction. Kind of bold statement, but that's Jabbar for you. Lamont is very high on Nikki. I believe she is currently second in his rankings across the entire house. And the vote comes down to Sarah. Luckily for Lamont, Sarah likes Lamont and would have nominated Jabbar. So I think Lamont's word means a lot more to Sarah in this situation than Jabbar does. I think Erica would have held the most control here. The problem is let's get to the source of the issue here. Nikki is an org veteran, is being proactive, and is being like, hey, we can move past this. We're good. Like, I get you nominated me. Let's move forward. It's all good. It's a unique situation. We're in a group of 6. Versus Frankie, who is not really acknowledging the situation, is wanting to keep it very social, keep it Frankie, which is very much not talk about game. He wants to be the likable human that he was in 18, and he doesn't really talk about the fact that he's a final nom. He doesn't really talk about the fact of the looming eviction, which kind of rubs Erica in a way of like, well, do you care? Like, are you mad at me? Like, why do you not want to talk about this with me? And that being told to Sarah, along with Lamont being like, he's not campaigning to me, also being told to Sarah, Sarah's not being campaigned to. She's sitting here being like, why is he not campaigning? And it basically boils down to Frankie just didn't want to like cause the house too much mayhem. He wanted people to like go with their gut, go with what they wanted, and he didn't want to like add any more stress to the situation. Like if they already wanted to save Nikki, he didn't want to create any more drama. When in reality, had he pitched for himself a lot earlier, Erica and Sarah deep down wanted to save him. But ultimately, Frankie's desire to keep peace within the house ultimately gets him evicted and sent home tonight. So
Tay, does that align with who Frankie is as a person? Like, is he normally a peacemaker in real life? That surprises me.
Looks at Cole with Lamont. You tell me, Max.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what? Like, Frankie seems like the kind of person that will like advocate for what they want, right? Like on a normal level. But this is just seems a little out of character.
I think watching someone that you know really well in this situation is really like an out of body experience, because so many times I'm like, Frankie, what are you doing? Like, you don't, like, come on. But it's just like, if I put myself in his position, he just, compared to people who've played a bunch of games, doesn't know. And in 18 was weird, a weird cast of people where like half the house didn't talk. There were sides so early that like you couldn't, he was never in the position to beg for his life in 18. And so whereas like if he'd gone out early, would he have stuck around and watched people like how they actually play and like watch morning teas and watch streams? I don't know if that would have happened, but I think that would have set him up better than making it far in this weird game where people had their very clear sides and didn't really talk to one another. And then coming into this kind of like really experienced Orgers, like I think in his mind, he was just like, well, Sarah already told me that she really likes both me and Nikki, and I don't want to put her in a weird position. Like, it'll be better for me if I stay, that Sarah not feel like I'm pressuring her to vote between us. But like,
I appreciate everything Frankie did today, especially today.
Had Frankie woken up the way he did today, yesterday, or even the day before that, once Erica was crowned HOH, we wouldn't be in this situation.
I kind of disagree. I think that Frankie was always going to get evicted from this house as long as the nom stayed the same.
Well, that's the thing, is he wouldn't have been on the block to begin with.
Well,
yes. Talked to Erica on Monday when Lamont was saying, no, Frankie doesn't vibe with you. And Frankie wasn't there to counteract that. Frankie let that story fester to the point that Erica then acted on it. Had Frankie been like,
where was Frankie during that? Just
starting a new job.
Just not around. Yeah.
I also slightly disagree with that, because Sarah initially wanted to keep Frankie, and if she had just played her own game instead of thinking about what Lamont wanted or what Jabbar wanted or what these other people wanted, if she stuck to her own guns and said, I want Frankie to stay, I'm going to vote to evict Nikki, like, you already know that you're probably closer with Frankie. Like, you may or may not. Like, I feel like you would have an easier time being able to make amends with Lamont if Lamont is upset with you because you went against his vote than you would somebody that you evicted. I think I said that correctly, but you wanted to keep Frankie, so why would you evict him? Because also, like, if you're like her call with Frankie earlier today was very like, you're not doing this. Why would I keep you with this? You're not doing this with the other people. And he came out of that conversation saying, Sarah, thank you for helping me. I need to wake up. I need to do this. I need to do that. I am 100% loyal to you if I stay in this game. If I come back, if I'm evicted and I come back, or if I stay and beat this vote, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be loyal to you. So, but if he's still not talking to Lamont, still not talking to Erica, that's an ally for you, that those people are going to attack him before they come for you. Why would you not keep that in the game?
I think that's what Jabbar saw in his game, which is why Jabbar was like, no, I'm going to vote to save Frankie, because I know that Frankie's ignoring other people in the house and not ignoring me.
Yes.
And I feel like it just also the lying, like Lamont lying about Frankie to save himself. And then when people would talk to Preston and be like, I haven't really heard from Frankie, Preston is a very selfish player and would just be like, yeah, Frankie's not really around. Like, Frankie got on the first call with you. Preston would never say, oh, well, like, you should try and talk to him because he's cool, which is what you, if you're playing this in a different way, could do as Preston to say, no, go talk to Frankie. Whereas Frankie messaged Preston and was like, I'm good with Caro. Do you want me to go talk to her and see if I can get her to save you? Like, it's just like.
I do think Preston was a little bit traumatized from 18 after Tony gets evicted and says that he and Frankie and I were a trio, even though we weren't. I think he was a little traumatized by that, though. And I think he wanted to distance himself a little bit from Frankie. So that might have been why he was not trying to advocate for Frankie the way that Frankie was advocating for him.
And
like,
I mean, I'll
your
disagree.
points-
You go.
Sorry, I was gonna say, like, I agree with a lot of what Voter says. Like, in the mindset, it makes absolute sense to say Frankie. What I don't know, because I had a busy day today, I didn't have all the chance to catch up on all the game updates. Did Sarah ever have a conversation with Jabbar about this vote? Because I know if Sarah was HOH, we know Jabbar essentially would have been her target. Is there any sense there? Because I feel Sarah is a strategic person, despite what the rankings say, that she wouldn't want to give the person that she would target the thing that he wants.
No. Jabbar was pretty open and honest about it before they even called, and Sarah's mind had been pretty much made up before they called, so the call didn't really do much. I disagree. I think Sarah made the right decision. I think where it lost it for Frankie is when Sarah was like, why didn't you campaign to me? And he was like, well, I already thought you were Team Nikki, so I didn't feel the need to. And then she was like, well, then why didn't you campaign to Lamont? You need 2 votes. If you already assumed you didn't have me, you need Jabbar and Lamont. Why didn't you campaign to Lamont? And that's when Frankie pulled the story of, well, I don't want to create any extra drama, any extra fuss. If you already want to save Nikki, I just want to let that be the case and move on. That doesn't scream great ally to me. Like, if I'm on the block and I need you to go convince people to save me, that does. If you won't even campaign for yourself, why are you going to campaign for me? So I think Sarah saw that as, you're not going to be that. And Lamont has spent the last 24 to 48 hours being like, I played with Nikki. She's loyal. If you give her your trust now, she's loyal and she will fight for you. And Nikki constantly, while she was on the block, was like, Sarah, we can work together. We will go far. Is Nikki loyal? Absolutely fucking not. Lamont is lying through his goddamn teeth. But
again,
Frankie tried to call him. Like, he was.
Lamont fully lied. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Lamont buried Frankie, being like, Frankie hasn't called me, Frankie hasn't talked to me. Oh, fully lied. But ultimately, I don't think Frankie sold himself well today. I think had Frankie been like, I fucked up, and moving forward, I will fight for me and you, and here's how I'm going to get better, I think it might have changed her mind. But I think him being like, I didn't want to cause any extra fuss wasn't the answer that she wanted.
But still, also, Sarah, to me, if you did your homework the way you said you did your homework, and you were watching the seasons, you were watching how everybody played, you were watching the morning teas to get caught up on the most recent seasons to see how some of these people that you would assume are going to be in this game played, you are going to know that Nikki is a more self-interested player. She's going to express loyalty, and she's not going to do that. You would know that Frankie is going to find his people and be loyal to them and advocate for them, even if you have to yell at him to do it. He's still going to do it if you make him, like, if you tell him he needs to do it. So, and again, like, he is still somebody that if he's not talking to people, he's going to be ahead of you in the pecking order over somebody else, especially in these early stages when it's still like, well, sorry, we don't talk, so I'm going to nominate you. Like, if you are doing your homework the way you said you did, you're going to know that Frankie is a lot more loyal of a player than Nikki is.
That'll be our homework. I don't know what season she actually watched. I know she watched 15. I know she watched 14. I don't know, because 17 doesn't have episodes, or 18. I don't know if she watched the morning teas of those seasons to know that. We'll figure that out. If she did, then girl. But I blame more so Erica for all of this, for even trusting Lamont to even cause the confusion about Frankie. Like,
and she did know that Lamont was lying. She just didn't want to. I don't know. She knew.
Yeah.
She said it. She knew.
She knew, and I think she needed to have more trust in the fact that Frankie was being honest with her, instead of being like having that twinge of doubt that sure, Lamont might be miscommunicating, but there might be some truth to what he's saying. I think Erica should have just trusted her gut, being like, Lamont is being scummy. He needs to go up. He needs to go out. But instead, she opened the door up for Frankie to leave, and there it so happened. So I blame more so Erica for this than I blame Sarah.
To me, in defense of Sarah, I think I support her call just because I think more than anything she sees as soon as Sarah was revealed on the cast, every comment that any of us had were, oh, she doesn't know many people. And so in a round like this, why not just take the interest of as many people you know are hard hitters as possible in Lamont, who apparently can sink somebody with 2 phone calls, and Jabbar, who if you watch Season 14, know the impact that Jabbar can have on a whole narrative. If Sarah hears it's what they want, I would jump on that immediately anyway. It's 2 people who ultimately I don't think Sarah gives the biggest shit about either way, and then gets to be in the strategic interest of 2 other people who, in these early rounds, are going to have a big impact. Just get yourself integrated for these first few rounds. Nikki or Frankie aren't going to shoot for HOH in 2 rounds and try to make a big move. So just play nice, get out of here, and in 5 rounds when you have tight relationships and you don't have the hurdle that everybody said you had at the start of the game, then you play. Then you can act more self-interested and say, no, this is what I want, guys, blah, blah, blah. And Sarah was hey, no, this is what I want. Let's switch the whole plan to a bunch of people who had no idea who she was and just ranked her bottom of strategic. Her game sunk in 2 rounds. She gets the treatment that half of the old school players got in BBH20. Where just people made an assumption about them, so rubbed them the wrong way for 1 second, and they got sent out the door because of it.
I agree. I think, and I do think that while Frankie could have been totally on his game, I'm not sure that Erica could have made another choice and felt good about it, because she had talked about wanting to do the easy thing and not really make a huge enemy. I think Lamont would have come guns blazing at her, and I don't think he would have been evicted next to Nikki either. I think that it would have been Nikki in trouble. So I think Erica did a really smart thing for her game. While it may not have been a best in the moment thing, keeping Lamont off her case while possible was good. I mean, obviously it's not going to pan out as well, but I think I think had she actually put him up, it would have been worse.
Yeah, I don't think Frankie left because he was too nice. I think he hit the block because he's too nice. I think it's literally Erica put up someone that, God forbid, they stay in some crazy they don't care.
I wish we had
Frankie wouldn't we saw him fight with Lamont, but outwardly you look at that and if Frankie's around, he doesn't hit a tirade in the main chat. I don't think trying to sink Erica. Maybe I don't know Frankie.
Act like that against Erica though. When she told him, when she told him that she was putting him up, he had pushed back the way he did against Lamont today, maybe they could have had a different conversation about it.
I will say, sorry, there were 2 things that I think Jabbar and Sarah dropped the ball on today, or not Sarah. Wait, one thing I think they both dropped the ball on, and that was that Frankie told both of them that Lamont said he was keeping Nikki in the game because Nikki kept him in the game for something in BBH17. And to me, if I'm Sarah or Jabbar, that is when I say, oh, no. We should flip the vote onto Nikki, because obviously they're working together. This is about BBH17 now that Lamont said that. To me, that is where they dropped the ball on trying to get the vote onto Nikki. Sarah also had brought up Nikki getting 3rd place a number of times and saying out loud to multiple people, I don't know if we'll get another chance at getting Nikki out. So with that already in her mind, and then hearing Frankie say, and granted, it was maybe overshadowed by this big story of Erica and Lamont and whatever, but it should be a red flag to you that Frankie said, Lamont told me he's keeping Nikki because of something that happened in BBH17.
Problem is
that's not something that's going to just all right, you kept me in 17, I'm keeping you in 20, that's it, we're even. That's going to be something that carries over long term for the rest of this game, as long as both of them are in the game.
And Frankie just had no one vouching for him at the end of the day. As much as Jabbar wanted to save him, Jabbar never vouched for Frankie. It was more so just, I feel a more genuine bond with Frankie, and I don't feel the same with Nikki. I think Nikki's a threat. It was more anti-Nikki than it was pro-Frankie, and Nikki had a supporter. Lamont praised Nikki about how loyal she is and how big of a fierce competitor she is, and she'll win comps for us. And it also doesn't help that Sarah people know she's a runner-up. Sadly, I don't think people see that as a threat because she is an old schooler. I don't think people think that she's a threat based off of the scorecards as well. But Sarah doesn't want to set a precedent of just evicting finalists or people that made it all the way to the end in case that's used against her in a future round where she's up against someone who didn't make it as far. So she's a little concerned about that. I don't see it affecting her as much just because these people are so focused.
Hell, they forget she's a finalist.
I don't want to say discounting her so much though, but I think the thought there is a little bit because not only is it old school, but that's back when you still like low-key played with like all of your friends and Josh's friends. Like those were still.
Yeah, to be fair, that's these seasons though too. So there's just no blood attached.
Yeah. But that's like legitimately when these people would like everybody knew everybody. Everybody knew. You all like lived in.
That's a Max Teddy one. So
yeah.
Max is like, that's exactly.
that's how I won too. I played with my Max. I'm not clowning you.
But I feel like that's how it started because it wasn't as cutthroat back then. At least I don't think so. And it was all people that you knew, so you'd be fine with. At the end of the day, it's like a normal game night kind of is how they're perceiving it. Versus like now, it's a lot more cutthroat. You don't see these people every day. You don't hang out with them every day. So you know if you're a finalist, you had to work your ass off to get there. Whereas like maybe in the earlier seasons, you were friendly.
So Quinn didn't talk for me for he didn't talk to me for a month after I backdoored him. So it was honestly worse back then.
Yeah.
And you deserve that.
Live update, because Frankie left this message. His entire goodbye message is pretty much geared towards the Erica and Lamont of it all, being like, Erica, you told me X, Y, and Z. I confronted Lamont earlier. He denied all of it. So y'all figure it out. Lamont is in his project being like, I never said any of this to Erica. She's making it up and now she needs to go. There's a miscommunication somewhere clearly. I think what happened was Lamont said something that pointed in that direction, but he did not say those words exactly. That got Erica spiraling, thinking something.
Not the semantics.
So, I'm pretty sure what Lamont said to Erica was before she won HOH. He said like, she was talking about how she felt like she hadn't put enough time in, and he was like, you need to talk to Frankie.
Like it's something like that where Lamont's like, I never said he was going to nominate you, but said something cryptic that made her think that. So now they're having this disagreement where Erica's like, no, he said it. And he's like, bitch, no, I didn't.
This is the best kind of drama in a Big Brother game where nobody really did anything wrong, but everybody thinks somebody else did, and it'll drive the narrative for 5 rounds.
And everyone will do something wrong trying to figure out what was wrong.
Yeah.
So while I don't think Erica's initial noms were bad, I think how she handled it in terms of her telling Frankie that Lamont said something, then Frankie confronting Lamont, and this whole thing bubbling up because Lamont told Erica, don't say anything. Let's just let this be bygones. And instead, she told Frankie, who then made it not bygones, and has exploded into this, which is why Lamont and Erica are my joint losers from this house, because this is carrying into the next couple of months.
And winner of the round is Sarah for somehow drafting these 3 together and letting this chaos happen.
Jabbar sat back and did nothing.
And realistically, it's Jabbar, but I thank Sarah for blindly drafting Lamont, Frankie, and Erica and giving us this. So.
Also, Sarah getting ranked lowest in brain and overall winning a math veto is so rich for the storyline.
But it's also like winner. I know I yelled at Alex for this, not talking about the round for picking his winner or loser, but like coming into a game, no connections, getting thrown into a final 6 situation and leaving it unscathed is huge. Like that's huge.
And coming out with like little to no target on her because
allies in other houses.
Yeah, like obviously she was perceived as, because nobody knows her, she was perceived as somebody who is not very strategic, not very social, like all those things. She was low pretty much for all of those. So, you know, you're coming into the round perceived to be not that great at other things just because other people know the capabilities of other people. You are making the good moves, even if I personally might have disagreed with one of them. Like, you still made relatively good moves and or moves that furthered your game for down the line. I don't think anybody's going to be looking at her.
No, she got the dream. She got knowing you're coming in with nobody knowing who you are, and the only thing they can get from you is that you were a runner-up and probably not caring to watch your season, and then all of them ranking you that you're the least like that's.
I mean,
I
I literally heard Preston say, I mean, I found out she got second place, but meh.
And he almost left. So what does it say about second placers?
She's a big winner from this twist too, because the twist allowed everyone else to have their own drama within their own teams.
Yeah.
So where no one is going to come out of this being like, Sarah is someone I would nominate just because I don't know her. Like now people have reasons to target other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's got people who nominate her, but more so out of just like the lack of connection versus like,
And that's
I
fixable.
didn't know you. It's just like, hey, we're 4 days in, 5 days in. I still don't really know you as well. And that's okay.
Right.
But like everyone has enemies and anyone could touch the block based on who wins this next HOH because of the split house. People have ignored other people. People have hurt feelings from cross houses, inner house. It's a mess. It's a mess. So let's get to
I feel like there's one person who will not hit the block in any configuration, and that's the winner of the brain team. That's Jabbar. I don't think Jabbar's getting nominated by anybody.
Interesting. I'll have to run the people and just think about it because it's hard to think about 16 people and how they relate to Jabbar, but I have to imagine.
I could not think of a single person that would put him up.
On to the Caro house. I mean, Braun house. My bad. Sorry.
Let's get to the Braun house. What a disaster this house was. Michael Bergeron is your head of household.
Let's go! Let's go!
He, despite breaking his deal with Preston, he still nominates him, and along with Megan, who both of those two bad read centrals left and right. Poor Megan and Preston thought they had a good read on this house, and they were just wrong at almost every turn. Like watching their calls together, it was really hard to watch them being like, oh, Trey will go, Trey will leave, Kara will definitely use the veto on us, Liv would use the veto on us, they'd evict Trey. We're like, oh God, babes, one of y'all is leaving, and I need y'all to see. Like
they cut up that act through the end. Preston came back to the game in their first conversation with Megan saying, I can't believe he pulled this off. I said, pull it off what?
Yeah, like y'all have to fight for your lives.
Yeah.
It was all part of the plan.
To being first boot.
All part of it. So Megan's like, I'm so glad we arranged for you to leave.
It was all part of the plan to go to a fourth game.
Yeah, like what? Like what in the fuck? Yeah, like they're acting like this is some like genius master strategy of like Ozzy sending himself to Redemption Island to win back so the numbers could be even. Fuck that. Y'all got outplayed, and you're lucky to be here.
No, I mean Preston's best strategy when he found out the veto was not being used, his best strategy was to ask Frankie to quit.
It's true. He did say, all right, well, maybe I can convince Frankie to just give up in the duel. It was indeed his first thought, but Caro, in her comp beast era, she won only 2 comps in her entire season and wins the opening veto for herself. A decent score. I think it was the 3rd overall highest score, so still worthy of the W. Or actually, it might have been 4th. It might have been lower than Nikki, who got a little bit screwed there by being in the same house as Sarah. But Caro wins the veto. Caro has zero intention on using it. I think Caro kind of fumbles the bag here a bit by leading both Preston and Megan on a little bit into thinking that there was a shot. This shit was locked up as soon as Michael did whatever Caro and Liv told him to do, which was to put up Preston and Megan. They were getting their way from the jump. And I think Caro led them on a little bit. I get that there's the risk that everyone from this house continues in the top 17. They're all here. So I get the need to have this facade. But the problem is when the facade leaks out to people like Erica, when it gets out of the house and then comes to the noms before you tell them, they can kind of see through it. But I mean, all props to Megan. She didn't give up. I mean, she knew the odds were low, but she pitched for her life to take herself off. She even said, I will evict.
That's what she wants.
Yeah, she said, I understand you want to save me against Preston, but have you considered just using the veto on me? And I promised to evict Preston. And she meant it. She told her project, yeah, I'd evict Preston in a heartbeat. If I'm off the block, I will do whatever Caro says. Megan did not give up. Ultimately, it was locked up. Caro and Liv wanted to protect Trey more than anything, and that was their priority. Liv wanted Preston safe as well over Megan, but ultimately her priority to save Trey outweighed that, and Caro and Trey got the last say, and they wanted Preston out. So that was pretty much locked up from the jump, but it didn't stop this group from making, 4 different alliances, 3 different alliances during the vote.
All involved Caro.
Oh, they do. We have Caro, Trey, and Megan called Daddy's Home. and that was the alliance made when Caro decided she wasn't going to use the veto, but wanted Megan to know she's safe because Caro and Trey will save her, and that's all she needs. You have Cajun Angels, which is Michael, Liv, and Caro, the BBH16ers, out of just Michael wanting to thank them for helping him so much in the HOH when really they just got whatever they wanted. They really said, "Can you do this for me?" And Michael said, "Absolutely." And then we had No Scrubs, which is Caro, Liv, and Trey, basically. This grouping that worked so hard to get Preston and Megan up on the block and get what they wanted. I mean, Liv tried her hardest. Liv tried really fucking hard to get Preston to stay. She didn't give up, but ultimately saw that there was really no chance there. But I will say it's paying off for her now because Preston's still in the game, and Preston knows that Liv wanted him there.
Yeah.
So it paid off for her, and Caro and Trey weren't really privy to how hard she really did fight for Preston behind closed doors and how much she did leak about what Caro and Trey were doing and that were anti-Preston. So I think she comes away easily one of the bigger winners of this group by managing all those relationships and getting everything she wanted.
The only thing I would say that keeps Liv down below Caro, like in terms of the overall play, not like the results of Preston staying, is the fact that the game is kind of happening around Liv in terms of, she folded to what Caro wanted, and then Caro's not really folding Liv into all of her game plans within that team.
Okay.
The extra group chats that are being made, excluding Liv from some things, excluding Michael from some things. I'm surprised that Caro had enough time to make a group chat with her right hand after having to pull it out of Michael's ass. Because
it took a few attempts on the alliance bot.
It always does.
Caro just puppeteered the entire team.
I think the winner, well, I guess maybe, I don't know if this is the winner, but like who I'm the most impressed by is Trey on this team, because Trey, just by existing and being himself, had 3 people actively wanting to protect him in a house of 6, which is like, how do you do that? Like, Trey was untouchable.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not impressed by that because he was in the same position in 19. He was up, like, he only gets evicted because he was up against the one person who had a slightly better game than he did, but against anybody else in 19, he would have stayed in that eviction.
But in a house of 6? Like, that's pretty impressive to be the only untouchable one in a house of 6.
For him to, that's still, like, doesn't surprise me though. Like, I almost would have expected that out of him because he comes in as, oh my god, this dumb thumbs up. He comes in as a pre-juror, so he appears less threatening because he's a pre-juror, whereas like Caro and Liv are finalists. They worked together, they were final 3 and final 2 of the same season. Preston was a finalist. And Michael comes in kind of with a question mark, but he has people that he wants to work with advocating to keep Trey safe. So I don't know, like Trey, it doesn't surprise. Everybody else has a reason for somebody to go after them. In my mind, like Liv and Michael have their beef. Megan's known to be a threat somehow, or is being perceived as a threat. Preston was a finalist. Liv was a finalist. Caro was a finalist. Trey is just like, I'm kind of here in terms of like what's on paper. So I'm not really surprised by that. Am I still impressed that it happened? Yes, but I'm not really surprised by it.
Does
Honestly,
not being surprised by it making it any less impressive though?
No.
I think Megan's the winner of the round, and I say that with my whole chest.
I think you could pick anyone that isn't Preston and Michael for the winner, and I think
you can stop the sentence halfway.
No.
How?
I think Liv,
kind of won the round.
Liv,
But Michael's not a loser in the round. I don't think he played the best I don't think he leaves bad.
I don't think he left with anything special from this group. Though, like Caro and Liv aren't going to they're not going to factor him into their long games. Like, sure, he's a great number for them, but like they value way more people than over him. He doesn't walk away with anything. He's just off Preston. I just don't think he walks away over him.
Yeah, well, you're biased.
To give Michael some credit though, he didn't put like a lot of these people did. Michael didn't put the majority of his energy into his team, like once he knew his job as HOH was over, he really did put his energy back into people like Jabbar, Louise, Christian, his good relationships outside of his team. So I do think he comes out somewhat of a winner because of that, because he knew when it was the right time to not give a fuck about what was happening there. Like, you could only talk about Preston versus Megan so many times, especially when you don't even have a vote in it. And I think that he handled that really well in making sure, because one of the things that we're seeing right now is people messaging like, I haven't heard from this person in a long time, and now I'm feeling like our relationship is faltering. And those people that he's had a good relationship with during, like, and before the teams are not feeling that way, because he's managed to keep up those relationships with them and make
He's not a loser.
I think he hit the nail on that. You talk to Jabbar and Louise and get good with them, you're making it to round 7. You're chilling.
Pretty
Yep.
much.
And my issue is more so with, I guess, people like Jabbar and Christian and Louise. There needs to be a transition, damn it. Like, Jabbar will talk game with Lamont and talk game with Trey and talk game with Caro, but like when they're on calls with Michael, it's never about game. And Michael's not going to make that transition. It's been shown. Sarah had to make that transition for him when they were on call the other day. Like, I'm a little frustrated with people like Louise and Jabbar and Christian for not transitioning their calls to game with him. Like Louise had a 2-hour call with him today talking about fucking Pride and Prejudice and video games. Girl, turn it into fucking game. Like, Michael needs to be introduced to it more so he does it himself. Without that, he's going to continue these calls only being social, and I fear he finds a similar exit where people go, I like him, but he doesn't factor into my game. Like, I can already see Caro and Liv dumping him because they don't need him anymore. Like, they're already moving on to other people.
I don't know that he needs them.
No, I agree. But like, he has to, like, the reason that Caro and Liv are moving on is because they don't see a use for him strategically. They're like, you want HOH, you do what we wanted. Bye. We're gonna go talk to other people.
See Caro and Liv moving on together.
No, God, no.
No, they're so not
I think they only work together out of convenience, but like, we saw so much that their games really don't line up in terms of what they want to happen. Like, Liv will go back to Preston, Caro won't. And Caro has other people that she has relationships with. Liv has other people she would like to prioritize. Those people don't match up. I think we're seeing, like, even the same thing happening with where we thought Caro and Megs would really work together, and now they've got their own things going on. So I don't think that it is necessarily a bad thing that those people, Caro and Liv especially, are not going to prioritize Michael, because if you start piling onto or clocking Caro and Liv, now you're also not going to associate Michael with them. If they're not, like, always associating with him and he's not prioritizing them, then you're not going to bring him down with their shenanigans.
I just want more from him. And the thing is like, I just want people to show interest in him. I want people to actually put in the effort. Because now,
think he's very similar to AJ.
Who?
Oh God.
What?
I think AJ is way more capable. Like, AJ comes in knowing what to do.
Yeah.
No, I think Michael is early BBH14 Danny DeAngelis. There's someone that says to tell them, hey, you're in a rough spot, talk more game with people. And that's what
I could see that potentially. I just think that, like, similar to like AJ, like, Michael just really enjoys, like, being on the silly, goofy social calls and just like to talk a whole lot of game. And similarly to AJ, like, you start to be like, our game relationship is not progressing, but I think that you can turn that around with him, and he just has to be structured, like what you were saying Sarah did.
Because here's the thing, Michael's not being touched for a few rounds. He's fine. I just don't want him to get complacent in his position and just keep it social. That's my issue.
From watching him on call, I think the issue with the game talk is that, like, orgers have a specific way of, like, coloring their words and, like, just, like, sprinkling what they're really saying. Like, the talk with Trey was like, well, so you know, Preston was making it seem like season 16 had something going on. So he pulled me and Megan and him into a 3-person chat. And instead of Michael realizing that, like, Trey was saying, "Oh, Preston is setting you up," Michael was like, no, 16 doesn't have anything going on, and like went this other direction, and Trey had to keep pulling it back to being like, oh, well, don't you see that like Preston can't be trusted, whereas Michael was really focused on like, we're not together, like Olivia and I don't have this thing. So it's like watching like these new players really like Michael and Frankie deal with orders who are like, they, you know, you don't know that kind of thing until you've just played a couple of games with people.
Yeah, Michael is very raw and pure and just like very in the moment, and I don't know how many levels deep he's thinking about people's motivations like during like he like I think I'm kind of the same way sometimes. Like I very see what's 5 feet in front of me, and I don't like look around the room and see the forest for the trees. So I empathize a lot. Like, yeah, Michael, I think, plays this game like he approaches his life, just very authentic and very just like matter of fact. And there's not a lot of room for like ulterior motives and stuff like that. So I'm wondering who will be able to open his eyes to that.
Yeah.
For sure.
I will say
just needs an enemy.
He said on his call with Luis today that in his day-to-day life, and it carries over to the game, it's a bad habit, is that he sees the good in everybody. Like,
Oh yeah,
he can look at someone who like you tell them they're bad, and like he just refuses. And he said to Luis like he needs to make a conscious effort this season to like look deeper than that, because he knows people are being sneaky. He just can't help but take a conversation with someone and be like, "Oh, like you're helping me. Thank you so much."
right.
Like, and so I have hope, very biased hope, that he'll start to make. I want him to have a few rounds where he can just be a voter and like look at two options and say in his own brain, this person makes more sense to me. Like, just get his toes in the water. I think jumping right into an HOH round is going to have us all look at it like, why'd you play it that bad? Because I don't think he knows what playing it good or bad is. Like, I mean that kindly.
If he avoids the block this next round, I think that's the perfect opportunity to figure out what can Michael learn as a player, and can he make that next step into, instead of just focused on I want to be likable, I want these people to like be my friends and be friendly with me, because then that won't get me nominated and I'll do better, is who are the people that I like look in my DR, say my trust rankings, and be like, these are actually the people I want to fuck with, and these are the people I want to yeet out of the fucking house, and roll with that. Like, he almost needs someone like that he can be looking at as like, this is my enemy, this is the person that I will target if I win HOH. Like, because I think that also could just awaken that game mindset for him, so that he can be that social guide, but then also have that capability to be like, but I can also slice your throat. But I'll give you a McChicken on the way out.
With love and light, though, I do not need to see Michael be HOH for a while again.
That's the
If
thing.
he
like,
is,
I think the thing is he hasn't really had the ability to learn how to play an org because of, I mean, he was out in 16. He hasn't played anything since, and of course, the second he joins this one, he's HOH in a fucked up
house
environment.
of 6.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like I'm hoping if he gets a few weeks to kind of like grow his wings, figure out what everything is, and like truly learn what is expected of him. I have faith in him. I just need people to clue him in a little bit, and I'm a little irritated with some of them being like, "Don't tell me you want to work with Michael when you don't give him the tools to be a successful ally."
I really do think a player like Louise, like once it's in a round where they're both operating in the same thing and not two separate houses, I think kicks it in with him.
he also needs to like hear people, because I feel like multiple people, at least Christian for sure, maybe Louise did too, I don't remember exactly, have said to him, I think you would have been in trouble if you weren't HOH. And he hasn't let that sink in fully yet, because he still feels so bad about nominating Preston, nominating me. And it's like, Michael, you would have been in trouble if you weren't HOH, and you're not letting that. What does that mean? Like, that means Olivia would have nominated you. That means Preston would have nominated you. Come on, just make that little jump.
Yeah. But I have faith in him. But the
people who Michael is connecting with, Jabbar, Louise, Sarah, Christian, are actually the people who are likely to be in power because they're good at comps and they have a lot of influence. And so I'm hoping that they will protect him and potentially loop him into what they're doing. So he's at least like making connections with the right people, I think.
And
I
there's
think
other
that's
people that if they can rise into power that I think could mesh with him as well and also be able to unleash that game in him. Like I think of Rizzo in power. I think Rizzo and Michael could gel very well. And if Rizzo gets into game mode, I feel like that's a perfect person to like awaken that in him.
No, Michael is Rizzo in however many years. Like that.
Rizzo
Rizzo
did say
literally said that in his chat.
After
he was
watching
like,
Rizzo on call with Madison, I fully believe that. Yes.
He was like, "Is this how I'll be at 36?" Yeah, he fully said it. So I'll be intrigued.
Well, I
that's
still-
a good balance. What?
Do you think Michael can do an Elmo impression?
yes.
Oh my God, I'm moving on.
Yeah, I think Michael probably got paid to do Elmo impressions at some point of his life.
Yeah.
For sure. Dream
well,
Skittles by Michael Bergeron.
It's a Elmo with a lot of profanity.
No, and I'm waiting for the Glitter Money cover of Skittles.
Yes.
The remix is going to be fire as the morning tea intro next season. I swear. It's so good.
Josh, I hope you're listening. We are expecting something. So that's your mission.
Josh is also expecting. But
Let's see.
Jenny is expecting. Let's get that straight.
Well, after all of that, Preston evicted unanimously, Rizzo evicted unanimously, Frankie evicted 2-1, Jabbar casting that rogue vote. Rizzo's
Jabbar does.
as Jabbar does. I'm still not over the fact that Jabbar was so frank with Nikki. Like, the veto hasn't even been won yet. Yeah, I'm evicting you, love, if you're up on the block. Like,
And
damn.
Nikki takes it so well.
Nikki's like, I appreciate your candor. Fuck that. I'd be like, sorry. Like, damn.
Good on him though, because in an early round like that, it is a boss move to be like, I know you're gonna stay, and I am still gonna vote to evict you and feel confident and fine in that. Like only someone like Jabbar can pull that shit off.
And when Nikki's the HOH, then no, I'm just kidding. Nikki's not winning this HOH. She knows she's not winning. She already messaged us saying I'm not winning this. So, but Preston evicted unanimously, and Frankie evicted 2-1 face off in the duel because Rizzo's eviction canceled because their team absolutely demolished the BBH arcade. I can't lie, it was frustrating to watch these people, both Frankie and Preston. Like, I had Liv in her confessional. Foser and Sam Uribe, winner of BBH7, were talking in the group chat I have with them. People were chatting in the VL being like, are y'all dumb? Like, they were just making bad moves after bad moves, left and right. It felt like, oh, Frankie, like, as long as Frankie makes this move, he has this game. Oh, he didn't make it. Oh, nope.
There is nothing more frustrating than looking at a piece and like willing it to move, and then someone not choosing that piece, and you're like, why?
I will say, in their defense, in both of their defense, I do think in seeing some of the moves that they made, even though I personally would not have made them, I would have made probably more obvious moves like make a 3 when I could have made a 3.
It was
that to be a read.
They're throwing in the VO.
Read them both.
That was more of a read than I wanted it to be, but it was good. But I think both of them, and I can almost guarantee this is exactly what Preston was thinking. I think they were trying too hard to set themselves up for multiple 3s in a row instead of looking at what was on the board right now. I can take a 3, I can get a piece off the board, and then in 2 rounds I can do that again. And Preston finally gets that mindset in the 4th game when he almost goes out in the 3rd game and literally hanging on it like by a thread. Yeah. But in that 2nd game and in that 1st game, I think both of them were just trying too hard to set themselves up for multiple runs in a row to where both of them were just making really illogical moves when probably Frankie could have won the first 2 right away. I mean, we saw how he steamrolled Preston in the 2nd game, but he probably could have taken the first one too if he made a few moves that were a little more obvious to make that would have benefited now instead of 3 rounds from now when Preston has a chance to block.
What I kept seeing too is I think they immediately just equated the whole game to tic-tac-toe. And you saw a lot of times like Frankie's still playing it like that, where like you put one on 3 of the corners, so there's no way both of them can be blocked. And like you saw him just like constantly trying to set up for that, and it's like it doesn't work when both of y'all can just move a piece anywhere. Like you're just never gonna capitalize on that.
I will say though, it's also very easy for all of us who aren't playing for your life in the game to also clown on them, to be like, oh, how are you making so many stupid decisions? Because I do think pressure and fear that like if I do make this wrong move, or if this is the wrong move, then all of this was for nothing, and I'm gone. Like that's the end of my game. I'm the first boot. It is what it is.
It was fully evident.
It's so much easier when you have nothing at stake.
It was fully evident on Preston's face that like he was fighting for his life. Like Preston looked shell shocked the entire time. Like, and I do forgive. Like
you could tell the pressure that Preston was putting on himself when Frankie took Preston's first piece in the practice round, and he made sure that was known as a practice round. Like Frankie took that first piece and he's like, wait, this is practice, right? Like he was already freaking out because Frankie took one piece.
I thought Preston was holding his breath by how red his face got.
Preston was stressed, McGee. I think game 1 you can see how excited he was, and then you saw how game 2 was just going so poorly for him, and you can just see it sinking in. Like this is it, and he utterly collapses in game 3. Like Preston had
I thought it was over.
Yeah.
Times I'm
Because it
finishing my
was.
podcast
It was
and I have
over.
10 messages of Frankie won. Oh wait, no, he didn't. Frankie won. Oh wait, no, he didn't. I was getting anxiety.
No,
Frankie
And I
made
wasn't even watching.
because the thing is, Frankie won that many times. That's the thing.
Frankie made a crucial error, and then Preston capitalized as he should have. So, and that's
I can't knock them. Cadre beat me while they were playing, and that hasn't sat right in my stomach since then. So I really do feel for them. Like I'll stop clowning them because I lost to Cadre Walkers. So.
And apparently, I've so learned that going first is a mathematically like almost 100% guarantee of winning. So the fact that the second person to go won every time was quite hysterical. And shows you just kind of how kind of crazy this all played out. The fact that the first player typically wins if they play optimally, and the fact that the second player won.
Well, it's like tic-tac-toe in a crazy sense. So that makes sense.
Yeah, leave it to BBH to go against the statistics, though.
Classic. But
Yeah,
that's it for the
like
duel.
winning that veto with 40,000.
It was just frustrating to watch. There were just so many times where I'm like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Stop doing that. But ultimately, Preston, from the absolute brink of death, manages to tie it up at game 3 to force a fourth game, and he won it. He's back in the game, so good
Really?
on him. And I'm intrigued to see what he'll do. Speaking of Preston,
Flip the table.
he is in an alliance now with Erica and Megan called the Josh Pit. It was an alliance that he wanted pretty early in the game. Then they all got split up, and then Preston Megan were on the block. So intrigued to see where that goes in terms of where he ultimately finds his footing, because he seemingly in his broad chat is like, I'm okay with Trey. I feel good with Caro. Like, do I feel great with them? No, but I still feel good with them. And I'm sitting there being like, babes, more wrong reads. And he was so focused on his own house, he kind of neglected other people. And Jabbar wants his ass on a fucking platter. So
I say this with the most love in my heart for Preston, but he needs to not make 37,000 alliances. His answer to everything, his answer to Michael winning HOH, his answer to the game starting, his answer to Caro winning veto was just make an alliance for safety. And he needs to just actually focus on the one-on-one relationships that he's having with these people instead of just like snap alliancing, because everybody already clocked him in round 1, because that's what he did in 18 as well, was just make an alliance to keep that safety on his side. But obviously, like, he did that with Michael and didn't really make an alliance with Michael, but like he tried to make a deal with Michael, and Michael immediately went back on it. And if I'm Preston, I should be reading that as like, even though there are 6 people in this house, I made a deal with him and he's already gone back on that, regardless of how many people are in this game right now. Like, if you horse blinder it and say there are only 6 people left in the game. He's already gone back on something he said to me. So I would be looking at that. I'm supposed to have an alliance with Caro and Liv. They both voted to evict me. I'm supposed to have like feel good with Trey. He voted to evict me.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at those relationships deeper and actually like having conversations to get those one-on-one relationships better instead of just making a surface alliance to stay off the block for a round or two. That's what he needs to be focusing on right now.
And I think that speaks exactly to Caro's criticism, is she said she saw right through it because it was just transactional.
Mhm.
That he never made those groups because he actually wanted to work with her. That he only made them because he wanted to ensure himself safety.
And I do think that's one of the things that unfortunately loses it for him against me in 18 is that he was so just alliance focused that he wasn't really doing anything with those alliances. He was just sitting pretty. Oh, somebody in my alliance won HOH. I'm fine this round. I'm not really doing anything with that, which, I mean, you just said Caro saw right through that. And that's how he finished the game, and now that's how he's starting the game. He needs to make like a monumental shift here, because he definitely doesn't see that he not only are there 2 extra people in this game, so 7 people have to go before you get to jury, assuming that the jury is at 11, because it's an all-star game. We have no idea. Some of y'all know, but not all of us do.
Yeah.
I know.
Shut up.
I didn't like the look that every Prime member gave me on this call at once. So just like shut the fuck up.
But like, assuming that the jury starts at 11, like you have 7 people to get through, now 6 more people to get through before you're on the jury. Like, that's 2 extra people you have that you could theoretically be a pre-jury flop, because I know that's something that he's really scared about, is making second place and then not even making the jury. But like, you have to try harder.
Yeah, like,
But is his version of trying harder thinking, oh, I just have to make more alliances? It's like you said,
I was gonna say, in a weird way, he has to try less.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, try harder in the one-on-one sense. Don't try harder in like, oh, let me just spam the group chat like I'm Austin in 17. Like, but what worked in 18 was the fact that none of y'all talked to each other. So he could have a million alliances, and it didn't matter because none of y'all decided to leak shit.
I
Which is
disagree
good.
with that, because we all read each other so well that we didn't have to talk to each other, because we all knew where each other stood.
I think
That's also fair.
the thing with Preston is he just has to be more intentional with his relationships without making those people think that they are like a means to an end, because that is a difficult line to toe. And I think that he's not done great at it, but also like what we were saying in 18, it was easy to make way of that when people are maybe having a harder time seeing through that shit. I think that he has to be intentional in saying, you know, he can't just look at this person and say, I want to work with them because I think we'd work well together. He has to say, like, this person opens up this part of the game for me. We talk well. Like, I would love if he would look at, we've brought up Louise a lot, but I think Louise would be a great type of ally for Preston. They've had great calls. They have a lot in common. Conversation flows easily. They have good rapport. That is the kind of ally that Preston should be looking at. I just don't know that he sees that.
He's a very, very, probably one of the most charismatic players that I have played with. He can get anybody on his side very easily. He knows how to make people laugh. He knows how to make people feel good. But I think his problem is that he doesn't go deeper than that with it still, I don't want to say comes off, but it still seems very surface level. Like, as long as I'm getting you to smile and I'm getting you to laugh, you're going to like me, and that's all I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
But he needs to go a little deeper than that. And I think one thing that both helps him and hurts him in this game is that since 18, he's had so many, and I think I said this in the VL, he's had so many games since he's played 18, whether they be longer or minis, that he's had at least one person in the game that has been like, has 100% told him the truth. No matter what's happening, they have been 100% truthful with him. So he has had that information in his back pocket. He doesn't have that this game.
He doesn't have somebody that he can trust inherently to always give him 100% the truth. And that both helps him because he doesn't have that attachment, but it hurts him because now he has to actually sift through what people are telling him and if they're lying. That's why he's had so many bad reads this game so far, and it's only been one round, because he doesn't have somebody to come back and swoop in and say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is what is actually happening.
Yeah.
And the problem is I think he's going to continue investing in the wrong places. I think Josh Pitt is currently his priority, and Megan was ready to drop him and was not happy about this alliance because it was sprung on her with no warning. He never was like, hey, are you cool with an Erica alliance? It just got made. And she's like, well, I'm not very happy with this because I'm clearly the third wheel, because you clearly asked Erica if she was cool with it. You really didn't. But she feels like she's a third wheel on it and doesn't like that she's not being asked and being involved in the conversation. So I think she's already looking elsewhere, and I think Preston's going to invest a lot in that relationship, and that's just not going to pay off for him. They're not going to target him.
I'm also afraid that he's going to invest too much in Liv, and I mean, I don't think that Liv is like poorly intentioned toward Preston. Like, I believe she really wanted him to stay, but if I'm Preston, Liv was not willing to prioritize Preston over what Caro wanted, or over Trey, or over.
Why did they have to be a unanimous vote?
Yeah,
Liv also threw the veto because she didn't want to win it. She knew if she'd want to save Preston, which she knew was bad for her game. She'd rather let Preston win it, so she threw it. Like,
she still almost won, though.
Yeah, still almost won, but she threw it.
Could have won.
She's not as good at throwing as
Preston, and she could have controlled the vote to get her way, and she didn't. And so she may not be a bad ally, but she's not like an active ally for Preston either. She's not going around to do anything to benefit him. And while I wouldn't drop her, I definitely wouldn't prioritize her either.
The good thing
with Liv is I don't think you get an active ally until Final 7.
Liv is out for Liv, and that will always be the case.
The good thing for Preston, though, is that these other houses do have beef. Other people do want to go for other people. So if he is able to get a little bit of luck on his side and have those good people that are going to keep him safe and prioritize other people, he can have a second round, a third round, a fourth round to make those connections with the people he's not as good with. He absolutely can make it out of this and still come out, I don't want to say on top, but he can come out in a better position in a few rounds if he plays them correctly, but he has to play them almost 100% optimally for him to come out. Otherwise, he might go out in the next couple rounds.
Yeah, he really needs to sort of go against what he leans towards. And this is just from what I've seen the past few games he's played, where the initial people he makes connections with, it doesn't really matter about all the other connections that happen throughout the game. Like, he'll be pleasant, he'll work around them, but like he'll rock with the first initial connections he gets, and he needs to use these rounds, stay in the background, even though he wanted to win competitions, stay in that fucking background and gain those one-on-one connections and build them and build them and build them. Show that you legitimately understand their motives, what they like and all that. Like, because he can. We all know he can. But he needs to open his mind up to be able to do that instead of just like, well, I came back. Let me go back to right where what caused me to leave the first time.
I hope that, though, the fact that he was evicted and the fact that the people he thought had his back, not in Liv, but like in Caro especially, I hope that this will make him feel like he doesn't have to like spread himself thin, overpromise, just be a friend to everybody. Like, I hope that it allows him some freedom to be a little bit more candid, a little bit more truthful, and a little bit more like speaking more to people openly that he actually wants to work with, and then therefore making those people feel reassured because he's speaking to them more actively. Because I think that Trey really kind of hit the nail on the head and why he wanted to target Preston in the first place. He's like, Preston wants to make sure that he's just good enough with everyone so that no one will look at him in the early rounds. And this kind of twist really hurt someone like Preston, who would never find himself in danger in the early rounds of a group of 18 playing. But just this type of twist really hurt a player like him.
Yeah. So, any last thoughts before we get into winner picks?
Tay definitely has a thought.
Well,
be about anybody, anything going on in the game. But Tay has the floor.
Still thinking about Preston and his relationship with Megan. Like, Megan is someone that he sees as like his number one ally, and yet during the duel, she was in her pod chat saying, "I hope Frankie comes back because there's drama in that house and I want to keep it around." And with the Erica group chat too, like she was like, "I know I'm on the bottom of this threesome because Erica's the one telling Preston everything about, oh, Michael saying this." Erica told them they were going on. Erica told Preston they were going on the block before Michael told them. So it's very obvious in this threesome that Megan is on the bottom, even if Erica wasn't asked to. Like, it's just like those things they're bad for Preston. When you want Megan to be number one, maybe number two ally.
Yeah.
I just think, I mean, Tay, I just think Megan's the wrong person to do that with. And like, I think she's coming off of 2 games where that's the shit that people pulled on her and a reason why she left. And I just think if anybody on this cast, she's the most on edge of like, she wants to be actively involved. Like, if you want her to get it off her first, you check a plan through her first, or else she's not taking it because she is not leaving a game again. Pre-jury on her own accord because she wasn't getting looped into stuff. She's too proactive of a player on this third try game to pull that shit on.
He said that he wanted Megan to be his number one, but his first thing in the teams is make a group chat with Liv and Caro. And it just doesn't line up. Like, he should have prioritized Megan all along.
Yeah. But that's the thing. He also after the first day, he was like Louise and Megan, and then as soon as the houses get formed, he hasn't talked to Louise for shit, which I get you're focused on your own house, but like you completely dropped her and then you ditched Megan to the point where it got you both in hot water. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we're being hard on him, but like he has to be better because this cast is not a cast that's going to put up with it. The cast is clocked onto it very quickly. He has to change. I mean,
I think we're being hard on him to the sense of like, you're getting a second chance. This is what you can do to make the best of it. Like, most people don't get this great second chance, and all of this information. I mean, maybe he's not getting all of this information, but like, he knows who's evicted him. He knows who's wanted to get him out. Like, most people, once you get that information, you're out of the game. And so this is great for him to be able to leverage this and find other people. He's on call with Rizzo, and I hope that they are making a good relationship there, because that could be good for him if they're trying to leverage some of their bad positioning in the game right now. But yeah, it's just going to be intentional.
A battle back played correctly can definitely help you. I mean, we saw in 18 that Michael went from 10th place, 11th place, whatever that would have been, I think 11th place, to... he ended up in the final 5 because he played it right. As soon as he came back, he knew exactly all the information and exactly how to play every single person. He just ended up, not being able to win comps in the end to further himself, but he played those next few rounds very correctly.
Okay, and Preston, notes app apology time. Let's do it.
Make a very obvious secret alliance.
If we're like ranking, and this is like my last thought on Preston, if we're like ranking the people who like really are putting a lot of pressure on themselves to do well, Preston's up there.
Number 1.
Preston, I think, is very, very preoccupied with kind of the meta of his own game and just like placement. And I don't know, I feel like it kind of weighs him down a little bit. And so I'm hoping for him, now that he has been basically evicted and was like 2 seconds away from actually going home, I hope that can kind of all wash away, because now he's kind of playing with house money at this point. Like, he can walk through the rest of this game knowing like, I really shouldn't be here. So like, why don't I just like do me and just like play free and loose and just have a great time? And I think that will pay dividends down the road.
I almost think that he's going to put more pressure on him.
I could not agree with Max more that that's what he should do.
I know. That's what I want for him.
I can't agree with Max enough that Preston is going to put more pressure on him. Like, I just watched the video of his reaction to winning the duel, and it's the reaction of a man that thinks he's going to win the season.
I wouldn't go that far.
But
I mean, one of his biggest fears was coming in as a losing finalist and being first boot. And
yeah, which is it's funny if it happens. So
right. As soon as the twist was announced, he and he understood how it was going to play out fully. He texted me and said, I am fully going to be the first boot of this game. And that is the most embarrassing thing. You cannot make fun of me, because he was already putting that pressure on himself.
Yeah.
He almost was.
Wrong
he
person
was.
asked not to make fun of Preston. I can see him poster that.
No, and I told him I would still.
For all intents and purposes, we watched tonight as Frankie kicked his ass in Game 3. Preston was the first boot of BBH20.
Yeah, but I almost believe that knowing his nature and seeing his stress levels go from I won game 1, even just tonight, I won the first match, into I got steamrolled the second match, and I was like millimeters away from being out of this game. Seeing that, and then he eventually did win. Like I think he's going to put more pressure on himself, because he's not going to, like, in his mind, he cannot hear Preston, you are evicted again.
I mean, let's be honest. It's from a TV standpoint, it's so poetic. Like the games of Morris, like, reflect Preston. Like, makes the finals in his first game, gets his shit kicked in the first round of this game. Like, not even, like, gets massacred by 5 other people for fun.
Yeah.
Like, they were hunting for sport and playing with their food. To, like, whether like, maybe this is his game 4. Maybe coming back in is that close tie with Frankie, and it's just a matter of, does the Frankie of the other people in the cast, like, put the dagger of that last chip in this time, or is it like, does he catch that life again? I don't know. But
Yeah,
When you're second, your placement can only be worse. So
right, because
you
that's
want
what
to
Max
be playing whatever.
Max is right. You should be on the lowest totem of being worried. It's
Yeah.
like, if this was second placers at war, I get it. Put that pressure on you. You're all trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But, like, you're the least likely to beat your placement.
Yeah, there's a difference between being competitive and wanting to win and putting the pressure on yourself to get the win.
Yeah.
Like he did everything but get what 2 to 3 extra votes to win the game. Like
3.
There's thank you.
Technically 2, because he would have won.
I'm not a historian, but
Yeah, 2.
but anyway, there's nothing to prove. You proved yourself. This is you just like, this should have been coming in, playing with house money. I'm going to be here, have a good time. I'm still going to play hard. I'm still playing to win. But, like, wherever you go out, it doesn't take away what you've done.
The only thing I will say is, I think you could say that, but a second placer does not want to hear you have nothing to prove, because they all feel like you have everything to prove still.
Right, but, like, you should be.
Obviously, because you're competitive.
You had the chance to state your case of why you should win the game, and you did not win the game because somebody else's was better. In their mind, you still have to prove why your game is better than somebody else's. You have to make it back to that final tribal, whatever the fuck you want to call it for Big Brother. I still call it Final Tribal Council. You still have to make it to the finale and state your case and actually win.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
I think the thing is, I'm sure he's one of the people, like, someone commented in the video earlier that, yeah, it was you, that have to, the people that did well are calling it all stars. And, like, so in Preston's mind, he's coming in, he's signed up for a game where he thinks it's all stars playing. Like, the odds of him leaving pre-jury are so high. You can't put that pressure on yourself. Like, half of you are leaving, or like 75%, 80% of you are leaving pre-jury. Like,
Preston is, and I do say this both lovingly and get a life. He is one of the most competitive people that I have ever met, and I am one of those people as well. Like, he does not know how to, like, obviously he got so much shit for making alliances in the freaking music league.
I still won.
God damn it. Couldn't even just enjoy a music league because he's still so competitive with everything that he plays. So even if he comes in with house money, he says he's not going to care. He's going to get to a point of the game where he cares too much, and that's going to take over. And again, all he cares about is winning. So just relax a little bit. And I promise you, if you actually relax and take that pressure off of yourself, you're going to actually do better because you don't have that pressure.
Yeah,
It's okay. Sia sang a whole song about it. It's called Breathe.
yeah. I think one of the things on the positive side
I
is
need it when it matters.
uh, I think Preston coming into this game talked to us a lot about how kind of rewriting the story meant being able to show people how he could win comps. And I thought it was really poetic that he got to show that tonight. Like, yes, he got very lucky, but I think that
I mean, game 4 was great.
coming in and saying, like, I'm literally going to do what I told you all and win a comp to save my own life in this game, round 1, is a really poetic way to kind of kickstart his game back into the full game.
Based on how it's going, he's going to need a few more moving forward. So I'm hoping he can keep it up. But any last thoughts?
Apparently, I've been trying to read the VL as we've been here, and it looks like Kevin said I'm gagged. Preston wants to throw. He wants to throw the next HOH.
He doesn't want to win.
Okay, so
He also already made a new alliance since we've been talking about him. So
Wait, stop. Who is it?
him, Madison, and Rizzo.
What?
It hasn't officially formed yet.
Oh my god!
It's look at the 3, and that group will be formed.
Can we
I'm
predict?
just going to call that one BBH18.
That is
also.
not a bad alliance for Preston
No,
because
but he doesn't need another one.
Literally, yeah.
It's
This
him
is
not
fun.
learning his lesson. He put his hand on the fucking stove, took it off, and he didn't turn off the stove. He's like, up,
There we
let's
go.
do it again.
That's
This is what-
on
he's not going to take his hand off the stove. But
bets on which prod member this is going to be named after.
No, Preston would put
Ashley
his hand on
again.
the
It's going to
stove.
be named the same exact alliance, but with Rizzo.
Preston would put his hand on the stove, say "ow," take it off, and say, "Wait, was that the stove that hurt my hand?" And then put his hand back on the stove. That's what's happening.
so is
I-
Caro the stove?
Hmm?
Is Caro the stove?
Sure.
He is
Well,
the
she's not in
Preston's
that
everything.
alliance.
Preston
will
is
say
his
though-
worst enemy.
I don't think, like, while I was just saying Preston needs to focus on his one-on-one connections with everybody, I don't think winning power is the worst thing for him. I think in these next couple rounds, if he does win an HOH, he is going to be guaranteed to have those conversations, and he's going to gain the information he needs to see how other people are going to play when their life is in his hands. I don't think him winning HOH in the next couple rounds is going to be bad for him. I think it almost
I think he
might
should.
I
benefit
think that's
him.
what he needs because
I-
people
I-
are seeing him as a fake social player. Like, oh, you're just using me for your pawn.
Yeah.
That's why we're even calling right now. So he needs an HOH to be like, no, I'm with you and not with Michael.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be classic Big Brother for him to win this HOH after like
Awesome.
almost out.
It'd be classic BBH. Like, there's a history in BBH when we used to have battle backs. The battle back coming back into the game and winning HOH.
The only thing is though is that while Preston was the final story of the night, he's not the only story. There are so many other stories and teams, so there's going to be a lot of other people feeling super motivated to win
Mm-hmm.
as
Yeah,
well.
like half this house is a target right now.
When does that happen in round 2?
Really.
Yeah.
I will say
Thank
this.
you, Dan, for the
This
twist.
was a
And-
fantastic twist. It delivered so well.
and when the next twist kicks in round 2 for the rest of the pre-jury,
And when the twist of the season is just 3 houses that just keep intermingling with each other.
Oh, I can't handle it.
Every round it's a different group of 6.
The
I
next
Twist has been unleashed.
I
You're not used to that.
won't
Wow.
give away the next twist without the blessing, but I think we talked about the opening twist being a lot about getting rid of the predictability and kind of shaking up the game, and I think that the twist that's going to come out of round 2 and beyond is going to continue to shake up that predictability.
Wait, Lee's not going to share something that's happening?
I'm just saying there might be some PTSD from this round that gets re-triggered later in the future based off of the next twist. So
I love that.
them. If they thought this round was difficult, they've got another thing coming as
Yeah.
the twist progresses. So that will be very interesting. Let's get to winner picks.
Cheers.
So we say goodbye to Frankie, but we usher in a new round and some winner picks that may or may not jinx the people we're about to say are going to win. Not saying that I jinxed Trey in 19, but maybe we did. My winner pick, I think I'm going to pick Megan. I think Megan got her feet to the fire. I think she comes out of that house very well. She's got people who wanted to protect her, and she feels good with all of them. She's got connections in other houses. I think Megan's in a good spot, and I think people just saw. God, you're killing me with these fucking taglines. People just saw you took a big swing at Megan and you missed. So y'all are absolutely fucking wild.
Bro, can we talk about game? Come on, why are you getting distracted?
I hate you all. I think Megan's in a great spot to do really well.
So mean.
I will. I believe last season my first pick for the winner was Kevin. He ended up getting 4th place, so I'm just gonna give it a little hair toss.
You're gonna pick the 4th placer game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you going to pick Kevin? He's not in the game.
Why don't we shoot for winner this season? Let's not.
Maybe I'm giving them a little bit of maybe I'm gonna bribe Lee to make it happen instead of Lee bribing anybody else.
I don't have to bribe anyone. I've picked winners twice in a row.
Thank you. And I thank you for it. I am also going to pick Megan. I think she's going to come out of this round as somebody that not a lot of people are going to look at right away because everybody else has something else ahead of them. She's going to be able to make those connections that she needs to make with the people that she isn't necessarily as close with. She's going to be able to keep those strong relationships going that she already has. She's also a very like retrospective. I don't know if that's the right word necessarily, but she analyzes her conversations very well and she looks into what people are saying and how they're saying them very well. She's a fucking therapist, so of course she does that. So I think she's going to use those skills a lot more in this game now that she knows how a game like this should be played. So Megan's my choice.
I tried messaging Megan about an ice cream place coming to Pittsburgh yesterday and ended up crying about school in my messages. So that doesn't say enough about her. I don't know what does.
I'll go next. I think Megan is high up there for me, but just to be different, I'm picking Jabbar. I think Jabbar is set up really, really well. He comes out of this house. Besides voting for Nikki unscathed, he can blame it on the twist. That if Frankie came back, he didn't want to be unanimous. He's already plotted all this out. And he's building new connections with people he doesn't know, which I don't know how much people who are set up connected wise are really doing that to the same level that Jabbar is doing that. Him and Christian have really hit it off. Him and Michael have really hit it off.
And if there's one thing Jabbar knows how to do, it's win an all-star season.
Period. In heels. I have 2 answers. My first answer by legal requirement is that Michael Bergeron has played the best this round. My second answer, and I think y'all have been sleeping on them, is so clearly Sarah. I just think if you're trying to look at a long-term package of a player, I think Sarah has done as well as all these other heavy hitters that we already knew coming in and has no other negative tie to her game right now. I just didn't rub anybody the wrong way this round. Doesn't have this big reputation to them except from being a second placer. And is already forming really good connections with really good people to have connections with. I just if you ask me to put my money on someone that had the longest path right now, I think she's safest money, which I think says a lot. So
I'm mad that Ryan got to say 2 names because my name was going to be Sarah.
You can say Michael too. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say Sarah. I'm so impressed with Sarah, and I think that she has such a charm about her from being on calls. She's really good in text as well, but I agree with everything Ryan said, and I'm just mad because he says it better than I'm going to say it. But Sarah is not to be fucked with. I have no notes for her. She's just really, really impressed me.
Okay. I thought one of you guys would say Louise, and so I was trying to figure out a stupid pick to say just for the fun of it, but I'll just go with Louise since someone said it. I think Louise is set up very well early on. I don't see that many people really gonna be looking at her as a target. I think the big BBH16 talk of it all does not involve Louise in that conversation. So they sort of get to skirt around that while also protecting those relationships. I could just see Louise pulling it out.
Yeah, the best thing that happened for Louise is that she wasn't paired with any of her 16 castmates, because they all got together and now they will be looked at as a trio, whereas Louise has been able to not only keep good relationships with them, but with many other people. Yeah, I was also going to say Louise. I was waiting to. Louise, I drafted her first overall for a reason, and she's my winner pick, and I'm sticking with it because it's just like when the conventional threats, as they're perceived by this community, start getting to jury and start getting to top 10, 9, 8, they're going to get clipped. And Louise, just like in 16, at Final 6 with a great path to the end and just needs to win a few comps and it'll be lights out.
Well, an hour and 50, almost 2 minutes in, we've finally wrapped up all of round 1. Yes, Cantaloupe to end the stream. It's been a crazy first 5 days in the house, though. This twist delivered in every way we needed it to, and round 2 is completely up in the air. There are more possible targets or more probable targets. I think Madison's a pretty high target. I think Victoria's one. But there are some very interesting agendas when you go person by person. So it is an absolute, this game radically changes on who wins the HOH. I'm super excited to see how it all plays out. So the schedule's a little bit adjusted just because Preston and Frankie decided to go four rounds tonight. So the HOH will be crowned pretty late tomorrow. It'll be crowned about 10 p.m. Eastern. On Thursday, noms will be due Friday around 7 or 8. I forget the exact time, but sometime decently early in the evening on Friday. And then veto will be due Saturday, and then they'll have the eviction at the end of Saturday. So they'll have a quick turnaround on Saturday for their top 17 eviction. But just to give them some more time, because this HOH is a how bad do you want it? Another one, but more skill-based in the sense of it's more of a physical activity. So want to give them enough time to practice and achieve what they wanted to if they really wanted to win. So if someone wants HOH, it's in their power to do so, to fight for it and spend their time doing it. So I'm super excited to see what shakes out and who's on the block and all that fun stuff. So tomorrow will be
whoever's the renom on Saturday, have a campaign to 17 people in 5 hours.
Yes. Oh my God. We never said the season will be easy, and it's
at least Carl didn't jinx Trey this time.
Here's hoping not. But we're gonna peace on out. No morning tea tomorrow. We'll be back Friday to discuss all of the aftermath of these teams merging and an HOH winner on Friday morning, and we'll kind of pave the path there. But we'll keep you updated in the Discord. But for me, for Alex Trias, for Lee, for the winners of BBH18 Foster, BBH14 Ryan, and BBH3 Max, and for production Tay, who gets to make her evening tea debut, and for the fireworks. I mean, no other better way to say it, but good night, stars.
Oh, Daddy, good night, stars.
My God.
That was for Frankie.